Now, here in Nigeria, both houses of the National Assembly have approved President Tinubu's imposition of a state of emergency in Rivers State. The approval grants the president the authority to enforce emergency measures, which include the suspension of the governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, his deputy, and the state assembly. The lawmakers also approved the creation of a joint committee of both houses to oversee the administration of affairs in Rivers State during the emergency period, and they agreed to establish a mediation committee made up of eminent Nigerians to help resolve the political crisis there.
Conferred on it by Section 305, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, and approved the proclamation of state of emergency declared by Mr. President in Rivers State of Nigeria. That the declaration of the state of emergency stated in the proclamation document and the mandate of Mr. President to review, and hereby mandates the President to review and even to terminate the state of emergency at any given time, but not later than 6 months. The Senate further resolved that Section 11, subsection 4 be invoked, providing the National Assembly the authority to set up a joint ad hoc committee of both chambers to oversight the administration of Rivers State henceforth.
That's the president of the Nigerian Senate, Godswill Akpabio there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Nigeria's pioneering human rights defender and constitutional lawyer, Clement Nwankwo, who is the founding convener of the Civil Society Situation Room and is also the executive director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center in Abuja. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
What's your reaction to what has happened today?
It's distressing, it's disturbing. Nigeria is under constitutional rule. What has happened is absolutely unconstitutional. And I think that when the president of a country acts in violation of the Constitution and the National Assembly puts a stamp on that unconstitutional act in an unconstitutional way, it's distressing for citizens who have seen what dictatorship means in a country, and I tell you that I have seen what dictatorship means in this country. Indeed.
You were one of the people who fought against military rule, and you've got the scars to show, show that you did, in fact. But just for the benefit, I mean, you are obviously a constitutional lawyer. You're more learned than most of us. Let's just, for the ordinary person, let's get progressively what has happened. First, according to many lawyers, the president is alleged to have violated the Constitution by arrogating to himself powers he does not have to declare the state of emergency. Then the National Assembly, as you pointed out there, uses a voice vote to pass this emergency rule. Are both of these moves by the president and the National Assembly contrary to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, as has been alleged?
I think anybody who can read would be able to read the Nigerian Constitution and would be able to see the ordinary language used in the Nigerian Constitution to describe the present circumstance. Two issues with Rivers State. One is the disputations in the State House of Assembly, and the Constitution in Section 11 makes provisions for how a dispute within the State House of Assembly that results in its inability to sit can be resolved. It means that in Section 11 of the Constitution, the National Assembly may take over the functions of a State House of Assembly where it is impossible for the State House of Assembly to meet. Section 11 also emphasizes that the fact that the National Assembly takes over the responsibilities of lawmaking of a State House of Assembly does not give the National Assembly powers to remove a governor. And it's quite clear that it says quite clearly that a governor cannot be removed as a result of dispute within a State House of Assembly. The Supreme Court had quite recently given a decision to say that the 27 members who defected should be the sitting State House of Assembly, and the governor accepted this. We now come to Section 305 of the Constitution, which is quite clear that if there is a state of emergency, and a lot of people argue, what is a state of emergency? You had one incident of what was reported, and there is no evidence of these facts that is said, that there was a pipeline explosion. Charles, there was an explosion on the road from Abuja Center to Nyanya yesterday. Are you going to declare a state of emergency in Abuja or against the federal government and remove the president? So these are issues that are very concerning. But what is most distressing, because in a democracy, there's a reason why you have the legislature. When you have a military rule, the legislature is the first arm to fall. And the military, by dictatorship, promulgates laws. The reason you have a legislature in a civilian government is that that legislature carries out three functions: lawmaking, oversight, and representation. The lawmakers of the National Assembly know that they are elected by citizens to represent them. They know what the sentiment is in this country about what is going on in Rivers State, which is that you have to find a solution to the crisis. What they have done by voting by voice is not known to the Constitution. I'm looking for the app. I'm looking for the technology that is able to count vote by voice into quarters, 1/4, 2/3, whatever it is. I'm looking for that technology. It doesn't exist. So how did the National Assembly come to calculate that their voice vote, and it's not about the register of voters, register of attendance, how did they come to conclude that voice vote amounted to any percentage at all?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to give them any support, but just listening to the way that at least it was done in the House of Representatives, the ayes were clearly volubly loud, and there was no nay. And I would imagine that that would mean that, you know, the majority kind of took the vote there. And the question then becomes whether or not that aye vote represents 2/3 majority.
I would think that if there is a sense that you have everybody saying aye, then that should be the incentive for a count, for votes to be counted.
Yeah, just to be doubly sure.
Yeah, to be sure.
So is this now a closed shop from a legal point of view, or are there legal options still left to move things in the right direction?
Well, certainly persons who are affected, including even indigenous residents of Rivers State, have the option of the courts, if we still have the courts functioning in a democratic manner. They still have the courts. The persons affected, the legislators, whether it is 27 or 4, have recourse to the courts. The governor, the deputy have recourse to the courts. The question is, when citizens' confidence in democratic institutions fade, when citizens have no confidence in the ability of the National Assembly to function as required under the Constitution, when citizens have lost confidence in the courts, then you've lost your democracy. And I worry that people who had no idea how much we fought against the brutality and dictatorship of General Sani Abacha, General Muhammadu Buhari, and General Ibrahim Babangida, people who had no idea how we fought it, have taken over power and are working so assiduously to destroy our democracy.
Yes, I can imagine that for a pioneering defender of human rights in this country, as well as, of course, a well-respected constitutional lawyer, this must really hit home for you personally.
It rankles very, very sadly. And I don't know how much further we can go, where we have no confidence that our democratic institutions are functioning, that those that are in the saddle of power have no respect for the voices of the people, where it is felt that people can say what they want to say, but those in power can do what they want to do. This is not democracy, Charles.
And as a lawyer of many years yourself, I mean, how do you assess the role of the judiciary in that political crisis in Rivers State and beyond, and potentially with what is going on now in the National Assembly and with this declaration of the state of emergency? Do you agree or disagree with those who say, certainly with the political crisis so far, that the judiciary has helped to muddy the waters?
I think a lot of citizens are disappointed with the judiciary. A lot of citizens want to see a judiciary that respects its constitutional responsibilities. I don't think that citizens feel, as we speak, that the judiciary is living up to its constitutional duties. And when citizens feel that two key arms of government are disappointing them, are not upholding democracy, of course you then have a dictatorship. And I hope that people who are responsible for pushing us to where we are today understand the implications of where we are.
And what about the political crisis itself in Rivers State that led to all this talk of the emergency rule? What are your thoughts about that and how it was able to fester for so long to the point where it was threatening, according to those who imposed the emergency rule, to completely destabilize Rivers State?
I think Rivers is a sad case. Again, even the elections that led to the emergence of the embattled governor was faulted by the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. It was a badly run election. So for me, it's not a question of whether it is Fubara or
the very foundations
the very foundation of the 2023 general elections that produced Fubara was faulty. Election observers made those points. Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room made those points, wrote reports on it. So for me, it's not about Fubara. He's just one of the elements of the confusion in Rivers State. But once the Supreme Court had pronounced a few days ago that you do have, and it's a question what was pronounced about or even the rationale for it, but that you do have 27 lawmakers. The Constitution is quite clear that you could impeach a governor. Why are we not following the constitutional procedures? I don't care whether Fubara is governor or not. For me, he's the product of a badly run election. But you must know that democracy can only survive on the basis of respect for the rule of law, for your constitutional foundation. And those in power today are ruining our democracy. They are destroying it. And I am extremely, extremely horrified by the fact that the National Assembly, that has responsibility for oversight of the executive, have failed woefully, very woefully, to do what is right, which is to vote, count the numbers, and show to Nigerians that they themselves are following the Constitution. And it's not a question of the outcome of their vote. It's that there was really no vote. How do you count a voice vote? What app did they use to share the voices into percentages?
That's a very good point, and I want to thank you very much indeed. Your words are always very sobering, and I hope the relevant people are listening. Clement Nwankwo is a pioneering human rights defender. He's a constitutional lawyer. He was the founding convener of the Civil Society Situation Room. He's also the executive director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center in Abuja. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.